Okay. Oh, let me just put the light on. Wow, sunny outside, and I've got hay fever big time. Probably you can see my right eye is kind of not doing so good. It kind of, I always get it in my right eye. God, it looks worse on the thing than it feels. And it's like ever since I was a little kid, I got this pollen allergy, you know, hay fever, and then my nose is like streaming and my eyes water, particularly my right eye gets a bit fucked up and looks real bad, and people look at me like, whoa, what the fuck happened to you? But I haven't been fighting. I just got hay fever, and I was kind of thinking like, oh, should I do this? Yeah, I thought, yeah, I mean, I'm gonna have hay fever anyway, so I might as well do my Q&A. This week, exciting stuff happened that we've been doing here at Leela, the first year of our Leela Life Training. It's like a series of 9 weekend workshops, roughly one a month. It's been going on since last September, and it just finished last weekend, so had about 23 people coming through, you know, that whole sequence of 9 events. And it's like, I don't know, it's very nourishing to be creating work like this, and then put it out to people who want to, you know, try and do really intense, you know, confrontational therapy. You know, they want to work with the body, they want to work with emotions, you know, not just kind of the narratives in the mind, you know, psychotherapy, which is fine, you know, psychotherapy is great, but I hope that it's time for, you know, the world to wake up a little bit, those who are interested in therapy and change, and see that the body is very, very important. Just check the chat. Hi, Dev. Hey, Gibberer. I know you're a regular on this this thing. I hope you're doing good, man. Hope you're doing good. I got my hay fever pretty bad, but yeah, what the fuck. Anyway, so yeah, the thing with this hay fever, it kind of makes me a bit dopey in the evenings. It's not quite evening yet, but I'm getting there. Hey, Ligas, yo, man. Hope you're doing okay over Faroe Islands. Maybe I shouldn't say where you're located, but I seem to remember that was it. And yeah, it makes me feel a bit dopey in the evening. I go to bed about 8 or 9 o'clock, you know, real early, and sleep a bit. But and the summer's kind of coming, so that usually means I don't do quite so many workshops round and about. You know, I find, like, if you live in London, you know, or you live in Brighton, you know, regularly I'm doing workshops there, but I find in the summertime, you know, I mean, no, people don't really want to come. People don't really want to come to workshops, and I don't blame them. To be honest, you know, on the weekend, you've been working all week, and then, you know, are you going to spend Sunday in the park chilling out or something, or are you going to come to a workshop? It's like, it's kind of a bit of a struggle. Okay, a little check the chat a little bit. The new bow and arch video is great. Really learned some things. Hurts a lot more. Thanks for that. Okay, yeah. I'm trying to keep putting content out and stuff that's useful, you know. So I'm looking, because I covered about, I don't know, I did about 38 videos, or basically on bioenergetics, and there's still quite a lot more stuff I can put out. And also to go through some of more classical sort of Alexander Lowen's exercises and stuff like that. And I've been developing an exercise which I'll do next week sometime. I kind of call it the triple opener, which focuses on opening the 3 main areas of the body in one workout. You know, the 3 main areas of the body that get locked up, which is the throat, you know, where endlessly got people, and myself, you know, people don't feel okay to express what's going on, you know, but the throat is kind of blocked either physically or energetically. And then the back and the heart, you know, opening that area up. And the gut, you know, this another area where we either hold a lot of tension or cut out. Having would be great. Yeah, I'm reading a few of his books. I've only ever looked at really the book. My ex-girlfriend read a few of his books and was quite into it, but I only ever really looked at the one book he wrote with a lot of exercises in it, which I think, yeah, it's called The Weight of Vibrant Health. One thing I noticed from doing the bow and arch, apart from my stomach being very tense, I feel an awful lot of tension in my wrists. Well, that's, you know, in a sense, it's good to realise that, you know, because most people have got wrists which are tense as fuck, Particularly, you can always do something like this and grind into them a little bit and see if you get like little spasms of electricity down there. It's kind of fun. Fun in a perverse way. But, you know, the wrists are very, very influential in a sense that, maybe not influential, but they're kind of like one of those areas of our energetic anatomy, so to speak, where a lot of stuff can get blocked up. You know, like a plumbing system, and it's got one point where the pipe is really constricted, stuff gets blocked there. And basically, you know, from your heart center, energy, you know, there's an energetic circuit that flows around through your arms and your hands. And that's why, you know, when many religions, basically, you put your hands together like this, as some element of the religion, you know, and you see, you know, Christians praying like this. You see other people in Thailand, they do you know, like this, you know. And it's basically, it closes this circuit and you feel a little chilled for a while. And you know, when the wrists are the main area where that gets blocked up, and what blocks them up the most, of course, is being on a keyboard doing this. You know, it locks the wrists up. And so it's good to try and unlock your wrists some way, twisting them or trying to get them. My left one will click out a little bit, which is quite cool, but I haven't, the right one just about clicks out a little. But, you know, the wrists are really important area, you know, and you can spend a little bit of time digging in there and really trying to feel what happens, just grinding your fingers. If you've got really sharp nails, you need to probably cut them first, but trying to breathe at the same time, and that will kind of allow you to feel more peaceful and at ease with yourself, because you know, it allows a flow of energy from the heart, you know. And the heart center is very, very powerful. It's very, very influential in our capacity to be with feelings, essentially. Best bioenergetic exercises to do before an interview. Well, I guess if you're, you know, you're feeling a bit anxious because you've got some interview, you don't want anything that wakes up too much stuff. But, you know, I would do stuff like that really chills you out, like maybe some of this kind of teenager release. You know, there's one called teenager release, and working with the shoulders, you know, really throwing the shoulders up and down for a while and breathing deep, you know, or just shaking or something like that. You know, anything that brings you feeling like you're really present in your body and your body's a bit open. And then it's like if you're in an interview, you know, you can just be honest with people, you know, and if they're real assholes, you know, and they just want you to be a certain way, then, you know, then that's their lookout. But, you know, you can just be really feeling grounded and open and honest. And I guess that's the feeling you want, you know, not to be hyper anxious, climbing the walls kind of thing, you know. Maybe it's a big interview, you know. So I'd recommend something like that. Okay, we're getting some Faroe Island appreciation there. Wow. I totally haven't been there. Anyway, best bioenergetic exercises to do before an interview. That's what I'd recommend. You know, something with a bit of release in it, but you don't want anything that's going to, you know, open you up too deeply in the moment. But something like these shoulder exercises. Also, there's like a bioenergetic workout I did about a year ago, something like that anyway, on the shoulders. That could be a good one. And that just gets, you want something that gets your heart a bit open, really. Will start to take away anxiety and giving you a feeling of like you're inside yourself and it's okay. So, you got any questions and answers out there, then just please just pump them out. I'm happy to give it a crack, even if it's only robots or whatever. Sometimes it seems like some of them are coming from robots. Anyway, you know, this bioenergetics, I love doing it myself in the mornings. At the moment, I'm doing a kind of thing. I'm developing another version of the gut workout, the belly workout, and that belly activation exercise, and making it essentially with this triple movement at the end, which involves several different body movements, which can go quite well together, and it seems to really give a good release. And then I do about a half an hour of bow and arch, you know, 5 minutes each way, and trying not to space out too much and to really stay present in my body, feeling what's going on, you know, because that's what it's all about at the end of the day, is really opening the body and starting to bring the awareness back in the body, and to feel okay in your body, you know. There's no way of measuring this stuff. Maybe scientists develop it one day, but my belief is that, you know, people by the time they're like 20, their awareness has evacuated the body so much, you know. We're just living in this thought world, you know, with a few feelings going on as well. And this is not healthy, you know. We're going to discover this shit big time. Now everyone's so much on their phone, so much on computer. You need to also be able to feel your body, you know, otherwise you're going to get ill, or you're just not going to be anyway so functional. I see guys like, you know, I don't know, I'm 57, I see guys like in their 30s and 40s and they're fucking burned out, you know, burned out just from normal bloody life, you know. And that is like fucking bad shit, you know. I don't like to see that, you know. I don't like to see that. My dad is like 91 years old, and we had a lot of adoptive dad, and we had a lot of fighting, you know, when I was a kid. And I had to do a lot of workshops before I could really forgive him and feel love for him authentically, you know. But he's sort of thin and wiry, and he just keeps going, you know. It's amazing, you know. I'm really moved by it, you know. And then I'm in London or somewhere, and I look around and I see guys who are like in their 30s and they're fucking burnt out, you know. And it's like, that is unnecessary. That is unnecessary, you know. It's just the mind has taken over, and they're chasing after all this stuff, and they're caught up in this rat run somewhere in their own head, and it's burning them up. It's burning them up. It's taking them in and it's spitting them out, and you know, they're 40 and they're fucked, you know. It's like, fuck, you don't want that shit to happen to you. Let's check in with the chat a little bit. Okay, I'm just finishing Alexander Lone's Fear of Life book. I enjoyed parts of it and got quite a lot from it, but he seems a bit obsessed with the Oedipus complex. Anything to that, do you reckon? Well, I'm not the best person to ask. Oedipus, so he wanted to like kill his dad and shag his mum or something. Am I right? Is that right? Or if I totally got it wrong there? But I'm not really an expert on this kind of thing. But I honestly sound, I really fancied my mum that much, really, my adoptive mum. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, some of these therapists, they also, these old, they get really obsessed with stuff, you know. There's a famous story about Carl Jung, you know. I also was never much like a big fan of, but a lot of people really rate him. But, you know, that he had written this book, you know. At some point in his life, he kind of dropped his wife and found a younger girlfriend, as guys of a certain age have a tendency to do. And then he kind of justified it in this book, you know, about how, you know, men need the kind of mother, and they also need the kind of the lover, you know, the mistress, you know. And it's like, you know, I don't know, it's kind of unconscious, you know. So you've got these very intellectual kind of psychotherapists, and the Oedipus complex is a bit like that, but I think it's from Greek mythology originally. But I don't know, there's a lot of, it can get to turn into kind of weird, justifying weird behaviors sometimes. So I don't know about the Oedipus complex, but yeah. I don't know, you know. I mean, there's a lot of old stuff which is kind of dropped out of psychology, and I think what's psychology ideally, or hopefully really is a better word, is in something of a renaissance, because there's a lot of very useful social stuff you can get, you know. The Oedipus complex, I mean, it's very abstract, you know. It's a lot more useful to me, you know, to say, okay, why you're struggling with getting the friendships you want is this, you know. Why your sex life is not working could be because of this, you know. It's direct, but it's useful, you know. Why you're not getting the job you want is because of this, you know. It's like, that to me is like useful psychology, understanding human needs and how we move forwards, you know, and reinterpreting Greek myths, you know. It's like kind of archetypal somewhere, but it's, I don't know, it's very, very abstract to me. It's kind of disconnected from the real heart and guts of the matter. So, you know, I'm not so interested in that stuff. Maybe a little bit of old Gnostic things and that kind of thing, but I'm not really into this abstract stuff. I kind of want to get down to the nitty gritty, you know. It's like, yes, you know, people ask about complex things to do with some therapeutic theory from the 1950s, and you think, well, what are you really missing in life? You know, what's not working for you? You know, can you get more direct, or is it too challenging just to be that direct, which is also okay. But then, you know, it's good to say that if you can, you know. Anyway, so that's my take on the Oedipus complex and that kind of stuff. Do you know anything about core energetics? I've heard the term, but I don't know anything about it. which is connected to Lowen and Reich. No, I don't know. I don't really know anything about it. Maybe I should look it up sometime. Yes, I've heard that it's kind of similar, and maybe taking a few of the ideas or something like that. I mean, what I'm doing really, is bioenergetics, but it's also mixed up with some other stuff as well. This belly activation thing, which I do regularly and I've put on my channel. That is not classical bioenergetics, but it's still, activating and opening the gut, activating and opening the belly. The way I see it, therapy, like useful therapy, is in its infancy, really in its infancy. And stuff like bioenergetics, we're just starting to learn what's possible to sort the human condition out. I listen a little bit here and now to this guy Jordan Peterson. Some of you may have heard of. He's very big on YouTube, and he said something not long ago about this generation is going to be the generation of the individual, and I firmly believe that. I've seen in my lifetime all these waves of people wanting to change the world. I think it's bullshit, most of it, to be honest. Mostly what I see when those guys get in the group room is they're just trying to avoid their own shit, Issues of authority, okay, the world outside has to change, the governments, the banking, the blah blah. It's just they don't want to look at their own issues of authority and the nature of the universe on a deep level. I'm from Osho background, and is not just something that needs healing and fixing. You can improve it and make it better, but if you're just coming from a place of avoidance, it's a waste of time. So, which is something I bang on a lot about, so I won't go on about it excessively now, but suffice to say that, God, I've almost forgotten what I was going to say, but suffice to say that it's what we're coming into is like the realm and the time of the individual, is what I meant to say, and it's up to the individual to use, your life to look inside and develop, basically. To look inside and develop as you go through life, as you get involved with, the core things that we all get involved in, which are love relationships, friendships, issues around our families and our background, and, how we're getting on in our family, and stuff to do with work, those things that are there, on a kind of deep psychological or even like karmic level, all that stuff that we go through, that serves to gives us the opportunity to become more self-aware. You have to go out and get a job, it's like, so you can fight the system and say, no, I don't want to get a fucking job. Nope, not me. But, it's like, then how are you going to clear that stuff? How are you going to clear that stuff? Because I have fought the system extensively when I was young. And you can say, I don't want to get involved at work because, there's going to be a boss and I don't want someone bossing me around or whatever. But it's like, then you're just locked off inside yourself. You can't really become more self-aware. And the inner journey on a deep level requires a certain level of outer stimulus, because without that, how are you going to get self-aware? Unless you're getting triggered on a regular basis, how are you going to get self-aware? And it doesn't necessarily mean that the triggering will automatically lead to self-awareness. No, certainly not. But it gives you the opportunity. It gives you the opportunity to become more self-aware if you've, becoming directed towards that. If you're starting to get interested in yourself and what's going on. So, we need the triggering and we need the stimulus from the outside world. And it's not really so useful to try and change it. Having said that, there's certain heavy shit I see going on around you could do without. I think we could do without wars and torture and shit now. But the rest of it, I think you have to put up with a bit. Let's check the chat. Luigi, hey man, how you doing? Just interesting in what you're talking about there, the century of the self. It's on YouTube, very interesting. Okay, cool. Yeah, send me a link to that if you like. That would be interesting. Or in the comments below, I get notifications about those, so then I can check it out. But that is the thing, it's like, that's where I think humanity is at now. It's not about mass action. It's not about it's definitely not about politics, which is just a heap of sterile shit waiting to die, if you ask me. It's totally not about this bullshit. It's about who are you. It's about who are you. Can you get deeper? Because when you're worried about trying to change the world and politics and blah blah, you're kind of trapped in the outer shell of being, as I see it. You're trapped in the outer shell, And actually what you want to do is get from the outer shell into more inner being, you know, this sense that your body is more open and that you can be in situations, you know. And triggers can still go on, but they don't necessarily pull you away. Or when triggers do come heavy, like to me, then I try and look. I try and investigate and look. You know, I still get triggered to fuck all over the place. But you know, that's really what life is about to me. It's about, you know, going out there into the world and living and, you know, being real about the triggering that goes on, you know, because we've got tons of triggers, let's face it, you know. You know, everyone's got a ton of stuff, you know, and there's habitual things that you'll hear, you know, in my work. I work quite a lot with young guys in their 20s and 30s. They come to me through YouTube, and of course, you know, they're busy, low self-esteem, or the prettiest girl in the club doesn't fancy them, or they're too scared to go up and talk to her, or something like this. You know, these kind of issues, you know, they might sound to some people's minds superficial, but they are deep issues, because what they're pointing at is deep. You know, they're pointing at deep areas inside of ourselves where we've cut off from ourselves, or we've internalized negativity about ourselves just to keep on moving in life. You know, so these triggers are very important. You know, that we live in a highly triggering environment is very, very important on a kind of soul level, or, you know, in terms of inner being, of really getting deeper inside yourself. This triggering is important. So anyway, let's move on a little bit. Yeah. Hey, Luigi. Okay, the new bow and arch is good. My arms ache and tremble. Cool. Yeah, it wasn't really, I don't know. I did a couple. Yeah, I did one. Yeah, I did one, which is it's not a 4-minute thing, you know. And then yeah, maybe I'll do a 5, 6, 7 minute. I mean, you can do, you know, it might scare the crap out of you now, but you can do 20 minutes down in the arch. You know, it's okay. You know, you can do that, but don't do that in a kind of military fashion, like you're determined to get there no matter what. You've got to breathe and feel your way through it. Otherwise, it's a bit pointless, and you're just kind of risk traumatizing yourself a bit, basically. Notice I didn't say re-traumatizing. Those of you follow my things, but you know, it is a very powerful exercise for bow and the arch, and I come back to it regularly. It's also good to work with other parts of the body, because particularly the belly, because that opens all the shit up. You know, it's like when you want to go in the belly, you're saying, okay, now I'm ready to look at all the shit that's buried inside of me. And then the bow and the arch can really help to open and integrate more, you know, more of the stuff that's released when we get down into the gut, or opening the heart, you know, of the old wounds and the areas where we've protected our heart, so we don't have to feel, just to get stuff done and create a supposedly good-looking self-image. Mega belly trembles. Yeah, good stuff. Is throat tension associated with social anxiety? I would say definitely, personally. Because, I mean, I don't have a totally coherent theory of depression and anxiety, whether they're interlinked, but somewhere my brain is going to come up with one day, that I trust. But essentially, you know, when the throat is blocked or so, we don't feel okay just to say whatever's there, you know. And it's important that we feel okay. It's like, it's not that you always have to blurt out whatever's there, you know. It's not like a license to get like Tourette syndrome or something, you know, and just be no censoring. But when we're exerting a lot of control over what we can say, you know, like often growing up, you know, the parents are pretty fucking harsh. You can't just scream and shout and let stuff out. And we start to instinctively contract at a throat level, physically, but more importantly, energetically. You know, and the two interrelate, because you can see the constriction. But somewhere you have to feel okay just to speak, you know, just to fucking speak. And you need to do whatever you need to do to get there. And it's absolutely related to social anxiety, you know, throat tension, in my opinion. Also belly tension as well. But the throat is where it's really obvious, because the throat is expression center. And when you don't feel okay just to speak and just to do, you know, you can look at different ways to uncover that. You know, exercising the throat, or looking at the, you know, psychologically from the perspective of psychoanalysis, you know, looking how your childhood was your expression curtailed by your dad or whatever, you know? Did he let you have your voice? Did your mum keep telling you, to stop being silly or something like this? Or, did your music teacher at school just tell you can't sing? That's how it is, and all this kind of stuff. And then, of course, you can go through a phase of blaming them and screaming and shouting about it and putting that energy out. And then you have to take responsibility. You have to take responsibility and start to open up the throat and start to speak. So I hope that helps, Dayman. And have you heard of TRE? Yeah, sure. Trauma release exercises. Yeah, David Bocelli, I think the guy's name, Italian-American by the sound of it. And, I think that's good stuff, but it's like a small subset of bioenergetics. What's useful is that, people who want to teach often say, well, where can I learn bioenergetics training? And there aren't really any that I know of that are certainly any good anyway. You just have to do a ton of it and then get some level of, if you want to work with groups, some level of group therapy experience, holding the space. And what you can do with TRE is you can do a training. I think it's about £1,400. It's about $2,000, I guess, or a little bit less. And you can do a training in that. I didn't do a training in it, but you can do a training in it, and then you can go out and teach that around and about the place, And from there, you could also develop yourself into bioenergetics, I guess. I don't quite know what the training encompasses. I know it's a lot more rigid than bio, which is okay. It's rigid in the sense that, you teach this, and you teach this, and you teach this, and you teach this exercise. You don't start making your own stuff up, and you don't start kind of fiddling with things. But I think it's a good way to get into bio if you've got a bit of cash and you're really up for teaching and leading. It's the bow that does it for me. The tip to push the chest up really revved it up. Yes. Well, that's a very good point, because that's the bit where I often see people still caving in, the arms come forwards and they close the chest. You've got to imagine there's like a 45-degree line pulling your chest open, It's like opening. It's also opening the throat, And it's also good, to allow some level of natural sound in the bow and arch. Is more what I'm teaching these days. That may change, but right now I'm teaching that. And by that, I don't mean screaming and shouting and going into your mind to start hurling out energy, but just opening your throat, opening your voice, and allowing a sound out. Once you get a little bit used to the exercise and you can orientate yourself in it, you're monitoring the basic position and you're monitoring it ongoingly, you become aware, where is this tension and stress in your body, and start to try and sound from there. And like I say, it's not screaming and shouting, it's just allowing sound to come naturally out of the body. And that will help to step up the release in it. Svang. Hey, Svang. I often get throat tension after doing bio exercises. My mind is still trying to bring stuff under control. I mean, could be, for a long time I was like, I'm opening up and I'm closing down, opening up, closing down. And if your throat is opening, one of the things with tension to understand is that because often people are tense as fuck, but they're totally not aware of it, So it's like often when you start to open the body, one of the first things that happens is you become aware of, all this fucking tension that you've got, And it's like, shit, this exercise is making me really tense. And that can be the case, but often as not, in fact, more times in my experience, as much as you can monitor these kind of things, it's actually that you're becoming aware of the level of tension. And then later on you eat some food and you drink and you kind of do the usual stuff, and your awareness of your body decreases, and so your knowledge of your own tension decreases. So it can also be that, it can also be that. Often when we do bionic, we're opening the body, there's a chance to become much more aware of how tense we actually are inside and where the tension is located, which is useful. Because then you can work on it, and you can keep opening up those areas. So check that that's not the case if you can. It's hard to know with these kind of subjective things, was it there before or not? Most tension probably was there, unless something's just triggered you into a tense state. It probably was there and you're just becoming more aware of it. Or if you're really, if it really seems like a little while after the exercises, some huge tension is coming in, are you doing something after the exercises that's creating that? Are you kind of going manically on the computer in a state to just kind of get into the mind thing and blotting out, what's going on inside your body? Have a look. I've done that shit. I've done that shit. So that's how people do stuff. Let's just check the chat a little bit more. Start experiencing Ethan. Hi, Ethan. An intense, tingling, vibrating feeling starting at the ankles during the bone arch. Is this something to just breathe and feel through? Yes. Yeah, I would say it is. Tingling feelings are generally pretty good. Generally pretty good. Get it a lot when you do breath work, rebirthing. Often what happens is like a kind of sometimes it's accompanied by almost, you know, like when people get in their hands, their hands go totally tingly and kind of locked, you know. In America, rebirthers call it the claw. And you can get the same kind of feelings in your body, and it's often a bit of a layer of fear, but it seems to be like this, as much as you can tell with these things, you know, like a layer of fear that's coming out. So I would keep on breathing and going through it. And if it gets really extreme, you know, then maybe you need to lay off. But otherwise, it sounds pretty good to me, man. Sounds good to me. What if the approach to release tension creates tension in itself, and there is too much resistance to accept another way of releasing tension? Well, yes. This is also a thing that, you know, in relating to the mind and the body, basically, as I see it. Because as you open the body, you know, you need to also open your mind in the sense, in the kind of, you know, the hippie sense of opening your mind. Try not to be closed to what's inside. You know, say for example, someone has a quite deep trauma. Maybe their father was really abusive to them as a kid, and they've kind of shut it down. They just don't remember chunks of their childhood. And that trauma, let's say, I mean, it's stored all around the body, but say it's really locating in some area of the lower back, and they start to do a lot of bow and arch, and suddenly they find themselves getting super tense, because you can be opening up the feeling that's stored there, maybe an immense feeling of anger, be normal, you know. And if you're not open to that feeling, you know, if you're not willing to say, fuck, I've got some anger inside of me, you know, at least to some degree, then of course you're going to create a dynamic between your body and your mind, where your body is trying to open and bring the feelings up, and your mind is like, no, those feelings are going down, you know, we're going to shove them feelings down. So that is what, you know, can happen when trying to release tension. You know, you have to be open to the psychology of it as well. You have to be open to the psychology of it. So in that sense, you know, what's important is like, you know, maybe even learning about therapy sometimes and about psychology and about this kind of thing is useful. You know, reading a bit about psychoanalysis can be handy. You know, I don't so often say that, but you know, if you're finding that you got to be somewhere, you've got to feel okay to investigate what's going on inside of you. And, you know, a lot of people say, yeah, I'm totally okay to do it. They come to the group room and a lot of feelings come up and they're like, whoa, fuck this shit. I didn't realize it would be as intense as this, you know. And you have to be open to what's going on inside. And all that really means is you have to stop holding super tight to a little self-image kept up here in your prefrontal cortex, you know, who I think I should be. You have to be open to changing that. If you're not open to changing that, there's not much point in trying to do therapy, because, you know, it's going to get challenged. Basically, it's going to get challenged. So you have to be open to, if you've been a nice guy your whole life, for example, you have to be open to the possibility that there might be a fucking ton of anger inside of you. And if you've been a tough guy all your life, you have to be open to the possibility that you could feel extremely vulnerable, you know. And if you're not open to those possibilities, if you're totally closed to them, it's going to be hard to do therapy and change, you know. It's going to be hard because the body's going to try and go in one way and your mind's going to go in the other. I hope that's useful. John Smith, how do you breathe into your balls? Well, I don't know, that sounds like a kind of Elliot Hulse thing to say or something like that. Cool guy, very good teacher and a great guy. I don't know if it's what he says, because I don't see so much of his stuff. But, you know, it's just like a male feeling, you know, that it's really breathing down into your belly for me that does it. But I'm just trying to feel my balls as I breathe. I mean, all it really means is, you know, your breath is not physically going down to your balls, you know, but there is a kind of energetic sensation when you breathe more deeply, and you can feel that in your balls. You know, it basically means for men, you know, it's a bit of like a military thing as I see it, you know, breathing into your balls, man, I'm here and I'm present. And it's good to work to look at, you can increase your breathing generally, the amount that you can breathe into your body. Breathing through your mouth is good, you know. Breathe if you want to do this, you know, when you're doing exercise, when you're doing bioenergetics, breathing through your mouth, you know, and you're trying to engage your lower body. As a guy, this is very important, you know, because I'm not all like, oh, men have to be men the whole time. I'm not like that. But you have to, as a guy, you have to have access to your male side. That's what I believe. And then you can drop it, you know, you can be as camp as you want, as gay as you want, but you need to have access, as feminine as you want, but you need to have access to your male side. Otherwise, I don't see, you know, it's a bit pointless being a guy, you know, so you were born one way or the other. And I'm not hyper tense about all this stuff. And likewise with women, I think it's good they have access to their feminine side. And then if you want to be, you know, total corporate, hard-nosed bitch or whatever, you know, go for it, you know, but you still have access to your feminine side. So with men, I think it's good you have access to your male side. So breathing down and accessing the lower part of your body is really important, you know, and then your voice kind of deepens when you do that and you feel male, you know. It's a useful thing to have, you know. I live in the countryside now, it's pretty peaceful, but in the old days I lived in the West End, and I lived in Soho and in King's Cross and all sorts of, you know, rough, tough areas, you know, and I didn't really know how to do it then. But when I go back to those kind of areas now, where my violence is a lot down, you know, some tough situations, you know, I just breathe down into my lower body and I radiate a bit different, you know. People probably aren't going to fuck with you too much, you know. You know, it's not that you have to look like some macho hard man. I don't. I'm about 5'7", 5'8", 57 years old, and not particularly good at fighting, I don't think. Haven't had a fight for a long time. But, you know, just breathing down there and feeling that lower half of your body, that you're present, you know, changes the way people see you. And mostly people that are muggers or bullies or vicious people, you know, they look for a victim. They look for someone who's basically scared. And if you breathe, you can breathe down there. You know, you access that male side of yourself. Is very useful. So Majid TV just continuing. Hey man, yeah, take it slow. That's also good, relating to your earlier question about, you know, the mind and the body. Yeah, a slow daily process is definitely better than trying to force things. You know, it's also, you know, I don't want to make too dogmatic a statement, because sometimes you need to push and force, you know. But if something's bringing up a lot of feelings or a lot of tension, stay with it. You know, the staying with it is the most important part, you know, and finding a way to keep doing it, and it will get, and you'll get there, you know, and being open to feel whatever's happening. You know, something you can even do is get up in the morning and look in the mirror and say, I want to feel. You know, say it to yourself 10 times like you really mean it. You know, I want to feel. I want to feel. You know, it helps. I get tingling in hands and arms doing the bow. Good, good. You can all jiggle your fingers a little bit. It kind of moves the energy a bit when that tingling comes. It's good. It's basically stuff opening and energy starting to flow. Great, awesome. Thank you. No worries, man. Any advice for loosening mental control? I'm practicing biorhythmy, and despite doing it every day, I still can't let things go, especially at night. It was irritating me having that pleasant, calm sensation. Well, you know, I mean, control goes slowly. I can't let things go, especially at night. What that immediately makes me think is, like, can you do something to open your throat a little bit more? You know, like the gag reflex. Sometimes when things seem to be going round and round our heads and we want to sleep, you know, it's because the awareness has got stuck a bit up here. And if you put 2 fingers down your throat and tickle the back of your throat inside there, and just do that, so you reflex, you know, about 5 or 6 times, that can bring awareness back in your body, and that can be very useful when you're having trouble sleeping. But loosening mental control will come over time with pretty much any bioenergetic exercises, because all that control is coming from, you know, a defensive strategy that we used as a kid, probably to deal with some trauma or whatever happened. We felt we had to keep everything, and that basically means our emotions and our behavior under a lot of control. And over time, with deepening our breath, with doing more bio, it starts to move, you know. You know, consider coming to classes. If you're doing stuff for a long time and it's not quite moving, but you're into it, you know, look if there's a class you can attend, or if you can come to a workshop. I'm running workshops around the place. I don't know where you are. Domingo sounds like kind of Mediterranean or Latin. I was practicing meditation before, but I left it because it was irritating me after having that pleasant and calm sensation. I mean, meditation can be good to do in the evenings, to breathe and feel your belly, like classical Vipassana, I find. And it can be good to do it with, you know, meditation after doing bioenergetics can be good. but it was you got irritation coming up. Yeah, because it's opening something, you see. So you know, people get addicted to meditation in a not good way sometimes because it makes them feel peaceful, but it's somewhere in classic, some schools of Buddhism, they say, like, you know, you got a muddy glass of water, you let it just sit and all the mud sinks to the bottom, you know, then it's clear, and that's good. I mean, I wouldn't say that's good. I prefer to shake in the same metaphor, shake it up and flush it through, you know. But I think, you know, to do meditation after bio is also very useful, you know, because also then you're starting to open and clear stuff as well, you know. Loosening mental control in a big issue for me. Yeah, having a beer at night is not the best solution. No, it's not the best solution. It's also not the worst solution. Hay fever is quite bad. God. But, you know, I'd recommend coming to a workshop on emotional expression, you know, having some space where you can practice letting rip, you know, and even going something that can really work with mental forms of resistance, which is what, in a sense, what mental control is to act it out as much as you can. So, you know, give yourself 10 minutes to walk around like a complete controlling motherfucker, robot, whatever, and really go into it in your body, you know. All the inner gestures that you associate with control, just stop fucking doing it, whatever, you know. Act it all out. Act it all out. Make it physical. And you may find something moves. That's another useful principle in body-based therapy with any form of mental resistance. And let me know how it goes if you give it a try. See if you find it moves something. Any form of mental resistance, you can often, you know, you can often move through it by doing these kind of techniques. You know, acting the resistance out, complaining, you know, what's the word? Not just complaining, but gossiping and kind of, you know, negative mental behaviours in the group room often move by getting people to act them out. I found the Kundalini really good for relaxing the mind. Yes, yes. Usually those kind of sucking exercises activate very primal early responses, and you can even do them at night if you wake up. I mean, if you're in bed with someone, they might have a hump with it, but you can do basic sucking exercises at night because that's one of the first reflexes. You come out your mother, you know, your reflex to breathe, to take in air because you've just been inside your mum with a amniotic fluid or however it works, and then your other instinct is to suck, you know, suck nutrition from the nipple, you know, put them baby straight on the nipple when you're healthy. And so that's a very primal instinct, and of course we carry on breathing, but we don't always carry on sucking. And it's good to practice that, you know, because it takes your brain chemistry back to like day one somewhere. So and I think that's a big feature of that Kundalini aquatic spine thing, the sucking thing, doing in different positions. And I may do some more sucking exercises sometimes. Just checking the chat here. Majid, what's your take on NoFap? I don't know what NoFap is, basically. Maybe it's an autocorrect thing that is meant to be something different, or maybe it's something that I don't know about. Just let me know and I'll have a go. I'm doing a gag reflex every day. I find it easy to talk, maybe due to other exercises though. Sure, it's sometimes hard to know what's making the improvement, but the gag reflex is great, actually. The gag reflex is great. Cheers, man. No worries. Can bio help with stopping vaping? I mean, as I see it, you know, smoking, or I guess that's related to vaping. It's like it's an oral way of reducing anxiety, you know. Having something to suck on. When I was a little kid, I used to suck my thumb. Not for years and years, but I used to suck my thumb. My little brother used to chew his teddy bear ear, you know, and he'd walk around in it till he's nearly 10 and stuff, you know. It's like often when you haven't, I don't know, it's like, they say, you know, the Freudians will say it's because you didn't have a nipple to suck on and stuff like that. But, so anything which can, you know, allow the anxiety and you don't have to start vaping or sucking. You know, I'm not up on these e-cigarettes because I gave up smoking a long time ago and I was never super addicted to it. I just do it for a laugh sometime, or when I was drinking alcohol 20 years ago, 25 years ago. But I think anything that can help to move the anxiety will help, you know. Sometimes it can be useful to do like a long workshop or process or meditation retreat and have something to move the anxiety that comes, you know, quit at the beginning, or cut right down, step off slowly in increments, and just find something to deal with the anxiety that comes. Some form of exercise, some people do training, you know, but you need to move the energy when that craving comes to get the vape and to do that oral thing. You need to do something else, usually something physical which moves the energy a bit. So pretty much any bioenergetic exercise will probably be useful in that thing. I mean, you could try one of the sucking exercises and see if that actually helps. But anyway, they're very, very good for you. Okay, I've caught up with my chat. I still don't know what the nofap is, but maybe that will become apparent at some point. Anyway, have a little bit of my turmeric stuff. How do I retrieve childhood memories in order to resolve them if I can't remember them? Well, the thing with childhood memories is basically, you know, with bioenergetics, you don't necessarily have to resolve childhood memories. You're opening up the muscle system where the trauma is held at a kind of muscular level. And sometimes that creates a kind of opening of the mind where the mind has been repressing memories, you know. It depends. I know you were communicating earlier in the stream. I can't quite remember what it was about. Let me try and wind back. There's been a few people today. God, back on my throat tensors. If I can't remember them, then you can't easily do psychoanalysis, basically. But you can work with the body. You know, if you have no recall of childhood stuff, some people, literally, it's a blank from like up until they were 9 or something like that, you know. And that's probably indicative of some form of trauma, but it's not necessarily the case. It might also be that you don't create so many memories. I don't know. The thing is, I don't work so much with the psychotherapy. I can do a bit, but what I do is a bit different. So I'm working with the body. It's important to be open to stuff coming up, you know. Sometimes it takes a direct form, or sometimes it takes a symbolic form, you know, in the sense that you could become suddenly very fascinated in something which symbolically resembles the trauma that's gone on somewhere, or something like that. You know, people, I think The Sopranos, I didn't watch the whole series, but it famously started with, what was his name, Tony Soprano? I think so. Anyway, looking at these ducks, they all flew away one day. I was watching the ducks, you know, this guy's a mafia Don and hitman and stuff, you know, tough guy of the First Order, and he's getting really upset about these ducks, you know, and it gets traced back somewhere by the Italian psychotherapist to being, you know, some wound, some trauma. So, you know, you start to open the body with bioenergetics, and you see a little bit what's happening, and then you can look, you know. I'm going to do a video soon, but what's important is to be open to your intuitive mind. Because although it doesn't always tell you the exact truth, it usually is like a thread that you can pull on to get somewhere useful. The trouble with the society that we live in, it tends to be very, very objective. You know, there's 2 types of mind really. Well, there's probably loads more, but 2 useful types. The objective side, which wants, you know, evidence, everything hard worked out, which is good. And it wants to really understand stuff in a logical framework, and the intuitive side, which just starts telling a story and sees where it goes, for example, you know. And it's good to be open to the intuitive side, because it will lead you somewhere useful. It's good to be open to both, basically. If you're just intuitive, I mean, you're going to be so wishy-washy, you know. I mean, it's going to be hard to relate with people, but you know, it's good to be open to both, because if you're just rational and not intuitive, of course, there's a danger you become like some kind of robot or something, you know, and you always want evidence for everything, and you always won't try anything before it's all been proven, and blah blah blah. And this also isn't going to get you anyway. So usually everything that's gone on in our life is somewhere still being acted out inside. You see, everything that's, people sometimes say, well, how can I go back 50 years to retrieve that? You don't have to. Because everything that's incomplete inside of you is right here now. Now, there might be some muscular or mental blocks, you know, but it's right here now. It's nowhere away, you know. And this whole story that all this stuff happened 55 years ago, you know, I can't possibly remember all that. A load of bollocks. That's just an obsession with the objective mind. It's not useful. It's not accurate. Everything that's unresolved is right here now, because it hasn't got anywhere else to go, basically. And it's just a matter of finding a way to start to access it. No FAP is no wanking. Okay, and what was the original question? What's my take on it? I think it's a good thing. I mean, it's difficult, you know, if you have a lot of sexual energy, it's difficult not to masturbate, and if you don't have sexual partners. But I think it's basically a good thing, and do a ton of bioenergetics or whatever just to keep moving the energy. The trouble with masturbation is, the big problem with it really, I think, I mean, on a kind of tantric energetic level, it's generally felt to be a problem that your energy is being hurled out of your body all the time, you know, and it doesn't get a chance to really, you know, work inside your body. You know, in Chinese medicine, they call it Shen, Xin, something like this. I can't quite remember. Anyway, Jing. But basically, you know, and masturbating, letting it out all the time, ejaculating is not good. But what I think is also a very important idea is that if you keep focusing on images of women or whoever you masturbate to, you know, it puts you too much in your head is the problem, you know. And yeah, for sure, there's always women we find attractive and pictures and stuff, but you somewhere have to not just go with that all the time, you know, not just go with that, you know, try to really, you know, because when you start having sex, you know, if all you're doing, you're just thinking about someone else or some woman out of a magazine or a movie or fantasy or something, you know, it's going to create quite a disconnection between you and your partner. I mean, they may be doing the same thing, but I think it's good. And also at the same time, you know, it can be fucking challenging. You know, I've been very challenged by the idea of not masturbating loads of times. I don't do it anymore. I don't masturbate anymore, but it's like, it is challenging. It is challenging because you could be horny up into the 60s and 70s, you know, especially if you do this bioenergetic stuff. So somewhere with masturbating, it also kind of forces you a little bit to make moves towards, you know, to get towards getting sex, you know. And of course, you know, it's sometimes associated, not masturbating, with people who've got sexual perversion who will become abusers and stuff like that, because the energy is so strong. I guess having a release is kind of justified if you think you're going to start attacking someone or abusing them or, you know, being sexually inappropriate. But you know, I think generally it's not really a useful thing, but it's also not so bad. You know, it's something where what you don't want to do is start, you know, having a you know, with any of these kind of things which are, you know, are not so good, overeating, boozing too much, whatever, is to set a really hard target for yourself, fail to get it, then beat yourself up and drive yourself back into repetitive behavior. That doesn't help anybody, you know. What's useful is to look realistically if you can cut down, basically, and you know, and try and minimize or spend certain lengths of time without masturbating, you know. That's what I see with it, and it isn't easy. Have you tried EFT, emotional freedom technique? Yeah, the tapping and that kind of thing, the tapping around. Yeah, I did that a bit a few years ago. I was never so excited about it. It's another way to kind of, from the mind to get into the body, you know, to try and alter things. I know, like a lot of these positivity things, or it can be positive, trying to put positive messages into the body can be actually increase the level of blockage. With EFT, usually, yes, you're putting positive messages in, but you also kind of own the negative, you know. Even though habitually I still feel shit about myself, I will now love and respect myself, or whatever, you know. I'm not taking the piss. It's basically useful to it can be useful for some people. Might even help me a bit sometimes. I mean, a bit of negativity. When you've cleared, you know, the thing is with stuff like EFT or NLP or anything like this, where you're using suggestions and putting them into you, you've got to make sure you've got a lot of the shit out of the body first, or you'll only increase the problems, is the danger. Increase the problems, basically. Because it'll make your mind going in one direction, usually towards the positive, and your body wants to go to the negative. Not because it's fucked up, but because that is how it releases. See, that's how it releases. So your body will keep trying to pull you back. There'll be a current of thinking inside, maybe even unconscious a bit, which will pull you back into all the old conflicted situations. And I've made a few videos about this, about the two streams of mental activity, you know, and why people hijack themselves. Is because they try and override the bodily component and this limbic side of the mind that wants to release by bringing you back into all the old conflicts. You know, issues with authority, it's trying to drag you back there. You know, if you didn't have a good experience of authority as a kid, your dad was a real motherfucker or something, you know, and totally controlling, and there weren't any positive authority figures around, you may, you know, as a defensive strategy to avoid feeling what that made you feel like, how bad it made you feel, you know, you become, you know, you try and oppose authority in the outside world, whatever, you know, and you're dragged back into the conflict repeatedly. But unless you really go right into it, you don't actually get to clear it. That's EFT. We're coming towards the end anyway. I've got a couple more minutes if anyone's got any, if you've been sitting on a question for a while and, you know, just put it out, basically. If you've been sitting on a question for a while, then you've got a couple of minutes to put it out, or wait till next week. Stefan, thank you for great work. Cheers, man. Cheers, Stefan. Much appreciated, man. Thank you. What do you think to drum release? Yeah, we've been through that a few times. I think it's great. You know, it's like a small subset of bioenergetic exercises, and you can do that. Bioenergetics itself is a kind of catch-all term for a whole wide range of techniques that use bodily posture to the edge of, usually to the edge of the comfort zone, plus breathing through the mouth and feeling. And EFT is like a small subset of those exercises, but it's very useful because they've got a training course in it, so you can learn it, you know, learn to teach it and stuff. Okay, I'm going to do another minute or so. So speak now if you've got a big question. Otherwise, I'll see you next time or whenever. I hope to get some more videos out this week, and I've got to check in some of the comments and stuff. But I enjoy doing the channel, and I don't find it such hard work, you know. Some things I've been involved in, it becomes after a while like a real chore, you know, like, oh God, I don't want to do it. And I can feel my mind putting it off. And with the YouTube channel, no, I find it pretty relaxing and pretty cool. Live bio workout, yeah, I thought about that for a while, and then I came up with a big mindfuck about it, which essentially is that if you join in 5 minutes late, it might not be so great, you know, or 10 minutes late. You've got to be there right at the start. But I may well still go for it. I want to start recording some of my morning workouts and just putting those out anyway, and maybe we'll do a live bio workout. The other thing is when I'm doing stuff with the class here, you know, not everyone wants to be on YouTube, so it becomes complicated, you know, with getting people who you know, if the whole class doesn't want to be on YouTube, then if with one person that doesn't, you can't really film the class. So that's a little bit how it is. But I've still got the idea to do some live bio workouts. Maybe, yeah, I mean, I'm up to about 1,150 subscribers. Maybe it's enough now for people to tune in, or anyway do it later. Maybe I'll do some on my own. Thank you for putting that out. Hey Luigi, really appreciate it. Thank you, man. Thank you, and thank you everybody. Feel free to hit like or subscribe or the notification button, all that kind of stuff that Americans talk about or whatever. Anyway, I hope you have a great week, guys, and I look forward to checking in with you next week, and I'll try and keep this channel active and you know, with regular content coming out. Okay, if you want support for bioenergetics, of course, there's the Facebook bioenergetics support group, which I must admit I haven't checked into for a few days, but it's out there, and it's links usually at the bottom of the videos. Maybe not these live Q&A ones, because I don't always put that bit out at the bottom. Okay, speak to you later. Bye for now.